Hey, oh my lord. I am pumped for this new trailer. I totally haven't looked at it. Not at all. No, 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 but I had work today, so we're going to take a proper look here, and we're just going to get right into it because this is going to be a VOD, so those of you watching after the fact can just hop in and experience this with me. But yeah, without further ado, we're just going to hop in and get a little bit of copyright in here, but we are doing it for a good cause. So, yeah, let's do it.
There was a time when the world was so young.
Okay, that music, that's what we like to
There
hear.
had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
That looks like $500 million of show.
Elves have
Oh my
farms to
God.
protect. Dwarfs their mines.
That
Men
is-
their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
Okay, I don't know what a Harfwood is, but it looks dope.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
Just like in the far north, I'm guessing.
Put up your sword.
Is that young Elrond, I think?
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
Oh
It
my
is
gosh.
over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen
Oh shit! What the?
what I have seen.
Oh my god. Is this Numenor?
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
I am sorry,
Dwarfs.
but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past
These
is
Numenorians?
dead. We either move forward or we
This
die
is
with it.
visually stunning.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
I don't know if that was a material or a ring of power or anything. I think it was just like maybe some mithril or something. I like the music. It sounds. Yeah. September 2nd. That's coming up. Okay, so let me just say first off, yeah, we are in for a treat. Definitely in for a treat as far as visual effects. I mean that's crazy. That is crazy. Like if you look at that and say that's not visually stunning, I don't know what you on, bro. Yeah, that does look awesome. Hey, how's it going? Long time no see. Last Place Motorsport. How's the channel over there? But yeah, my thoughts are, wow, like that looks dope. Give me that. Like the music, it sounds Tolkien-y, but fresher, epic. That's how I would describe it. And I mean, I'm already saying the visuals look insane. Based off that, it looks like it's going to be focused on like all aspects of Middle Earth at this time, which is great. But with like a focus on the Numenorians, maybe like traveling over, and then like I believe that there's a good chance that like meteor we see is maybe some kind of evil as far as like Sauron potentially. And we'll get into that, talking about that, and my thoughts of what it could potentially. But yeah, I am excited. Very nice. Yes, Aiden. I mean, the Elven realms always look stunning. And we've seen some, with Erebor, good looking dwarf realms. Not so much maybe for men. I mean, Gundor's pretty cool, but like everything just looks so mythic. Like the dwarven realms. And we could kind of go back to the trailer and kind of pick it apart, but yeah, I mean, it looks like he was holding up some kind of material. I don't think it was a ring. Maybe he had a ring of power in his hand. Overall, I mean, I'm just pumped for this. I mean, we won't know for sure until it comes out, obviously, just with just about anything. And it's the most expensive show there is if you haven't already, you know, heard that. Let's get a exact number here. What is the... I believe it's in the 500 millions, but I don't know. How much is the first season? Rings of Power. 58 million per episode. So yeah, just shy of 500 million. The number is 465 million for this season. So 58 million per episode. That's what they're saying. Keep in mind, like Game of Thrones, I believe was 10 or 20 million. Let's look up here. Game of Thrones cost per episode. Game of Thrones began at 6 million per episode, and the final season was only 15 million per episode. So we're saying 58 million per episode versus the end of Game of Thrones was 15 million per episode. I mean, I'm not gonna. This is a Rings of Power stream. Like, I'm not gonna just say aimless spoilers of Game of Thrones or anything. But there's a lot of shit happening, to say it bluntly, in the Game of Thrones. Lots of visually like intensive, expensive stuff going on, and that's 15 million. So just about 4 times that. I mean, that is mind-boggling. And that trailer does a much better job of showing just how kind of big this is. And I think a lot of people, when they first looked at that first teaser trailer, I mean, I don't really get why they were hating on it so much, but maybe it just didn't have those breathtaking scenes as much compared to this trailer. But I mean, come on, like that. It feels Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I mean, it's the year's 2022. Like, there's gonna be, it's different, you know. Like, it definitely feels different than the Peter Jackson films, but I feel like with Lord of the Rings, like, if it's not Tolkien that's doing it, how can we judge something that hasn't come out yet, you know? They've obviously invested a lot into this, a lot of resources, so they're definitely trying. Like, I don't think it's a lack of trying. Like, they're pumping a lot into this. Like, we can kind of get into, like, we talked in the past couple of podcasts, we've talked a lot about Star Wars and, like, Kenobi, for example. Kenobi at times feels pretty cheap, right? Like, it kind of feels like just kind of thrown together and doesn't seem like it would cost a ton. Like, it almost looks like a fan film in some parts, but like, this looks like, for a show, I mean, it's kind of like, in my mind, looking at the trailer, almost how Avatar, how that kind of, I don't know, revolutionized filmmaking from a visual standpoint, at least in the modern era. I feel like this has the opportunity, like the Rings of Power has the opportunity to do that, but for the streaming service platform, and to really up everyone's game of, like, you know, go from, you know, TV shows, like, they can have visual good moments, but they don't compare to movies. Whereas this, I mean, every episode is the cost of a decent film. Like, 2 episodes, that is a cost of, like, basically a Marvel or a Star Wars film, like an actual visually breathtaking film. So to get a show that's going to be basically a movie throughout, like every episode that comes out is just a movie, I mean, I'm pumped. Wait, chat, you guys pumped? Hey? I mean, what are our thoughts here? I mean, I guess we should try to look for some more info too. As far as, like, how many episodes are in season 1 of Power? I guess we don't know for sure. So it's going to be 8 episodes. That was okay. That was 20 episodes in the series first season. What? There's some conflicting sources here. Very conflicting. Is the 8? It's 8 times 8. Wait, I can do that math in my head, right? No, that makes sense because it's 8 times 58, and that is just at the number, that $465 million. I was about to say, it's basically a 10-hour film. Bill says, Avatar had James Cameron. This show has 2 writers with 1 film to their credit. This film, I mean, okay, that's fair, but compared to some of these modern shows, like, it's at least it's just a couple people that are working on it throughout, rather than some kind of hosh-posh of some kind of cluster going on, though. Like, I mean, you're saying so there's 2 writers, but have they worked on it from start to finish? Like, there hasn't been any shifting on that, though, right? And, I mean, yes, you're lacking, like, novels to work with compared to, like, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but you do have, I mean, that's not necessarily true, but you do have, like, overarching themes of what happens. Like, at the end of the day, we understand, like, the premise of the plot. It's just a matter of how well they can execute it, right? Like, there's a general knowledge, like, I mean, it's the Rings of Power. Like, we're gonna see Sauron making rings and deceiving people, right? Like, to some extent. So the executive producers. First episode is called Shadows of the Past. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. Those are the main developers. I mean, hey, they're shooting in New Zealand. That is a plus. That is a plus. Oh, did I disappear for a second? Uh-oh. Oh, that's weird. Can y'all see me? Okay. Pat McKay and JD Payne. Yeah. So Pat McKay, what are you saying there? Pat McKay, JD Payne. I'm not gonna. So this is all the way in 2018. There's this article I'm looking at. Rising features writers who recently worked on Star Trek 4. I mean, I'm not a Star Trek guy, but they seem like visionaries. And I mean, I'm not gonna just like get overly hyped off the trailer and just think this is gonna be insane. But looking at the trailer, like those big shots, less focused on the dialogue aspects and those overarching themes and just those mythical places, like that's what I want to see, and that gives me confidence in their ability, preemptively, granted, that they have, you know, like I'm not gonna like think that, oh, this is just gonna be the best thing ever based off of a trailer, right? But I'm also not gonna like, I have decent expectations for this, you know, like they're picking good shots. Like a lot of that trailer is just showing some of those great locations and just visual scale and music, and that's like, that seems visionary vibes, you know, and that's what Lord of the Rings needs. That's what a show this vast and just a universe this vast, that's the type of stuff that just needs to be brought to the table, right? Yeah, other than that, I mean, so how long will each episode be? That's another thing. Episode lengths. And no restrictions on episode lengths. According to the outlet, the first 2 episodes are supposed to have a combined runtime of around 3 hours, but it sounds like they'll be around 50 minutes to an hour. Yeah, so that comes with Andy at the 10-hour film that you're talking about. Which, that's nice, That is very nice, to say the least, in any case. I guess a discussion I'd like to talk about is just, what are our thoughts on, like, what are some of the main things that we expect to see happen in here? Like, can we agree to disagree, I guess, of what's going to be happening? Because what I want to talk about too is, Sauron's actor. Joseph Mawle. Is that how you say it, right? So he was the actor in Game of Thrones for Benjen Stark. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers of another show, but I think he did a great job. Now, that's not necessarily a character I think we would consider evil, and I guess I don't know some of the other roles he's played. We could look it up, but I will say his overall physique, a little bit taller, a little bit more lanky. I think that fits a good, like, human description for an early version of a Sauron that can eventually, turn into what we see in the Peter Jackson films. That overarching, like, scary beast, right? So I think it's a pretty good selection as far as that. I'm not someone that I'm going to sit here claiming I know a lot about actors or anything like that, but I think it's important for some of these main characters, and especially like villains, that you are having somebody that can get the job done and will represent a character how, not to say they should, because Lord of the Rings, if it's not J.R. Tolkien book, it's kind of like a lot of these other IPs, it's just everyone's take on it. So, and from what I've seen, and I think what people need to understand, or at least consider before they start knocking this show, so this is set before Lord of the Rings. So this is set during the Second Age. So the Third Age, that is what Lord of the Rings is all about. So the rights that they have and for this show is during the Second Age, and the Second Age transitions to the Third Age right when Sauron is destroyed, and that in that first initially destroyed in the Fellowship of the Ring, that first huge insane fight we see, that is the end of the Second Age, and then everything after that's the Third Age. So they have the rights to, like, all that. It's a few 1,000-year time gap, and this is where we see. Again, I'm no expert, but I have done some research in this area, and this is where we see the Númenóreans. The Aragorn, the king, right? We briefly haven't mentioned the films, but he's from a line of, like, greater men, the Númenóreans from the West, the men of the West, right? But this is a time where that bloodline, it's not even a bloodline, it's just an actual race of people. They're kind of at their peak of power. Like, and I think that's what we'll focus on as far as the men in that. Like, those men, they live a few hundred years compared to, like, the men in Rohan, for example. Much prouder, I guess. Obviously, there's a bit of a downtrend with the Steeldar and whatnot. But, I guess my very, very early predictions would be that the last episode we'll see would be another take on that prologue scene we see in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. I've talked with some people. I would think that would make the most sense. They're spending so much money, they can make a full-scale battle of a huge episode like that. And obviously, for me, like, especially as a kid, I really enjoyed, especially when I was younger, the fight scenes, the battles. And as I've grown older, I've appreciated more of the more mythical, and I guess it's more to say the story and just the overall themes in Lord of the Rings, the quotes. So I think that's a big thing for me too. Where I might be skeptical is within the dialogue. Now, I'm not going to expect it to be on that same level, right, as Lord of the Rings, because they're taking quotes from the book here and there, and same with The Hobbit. But can they make it feel as if, you know, Tolkien were to write or say? Can they give those Tolkien vibes in the quotes? You know, those quotes that Gandalf will say that will make you feel, you know, you can look at and it'll make you feel warm inside. Give your life meaning. Those kind of quotes, rather than dialogue that feels more, I guess, more drama-y, more I want them to shy away from the drama type dialogue, we'll say the Game of Thrones type dialogue, right? And more of the, try to keep it feeling Lord of the Rings, and they know that's going to be a difficult task without, you know, books to call for. But just you just got to be creative. You know, you don't take the dialogue straight out, because I mean, I guess you don't have it, but you have the overarching themes that you can reference in these other books and these other works of art. And I'm not looking for, you know, no, you don't need to make this like feel like it's in Peter Jackson type Lord of the Rings. Do your own take and just do it well. The only person you should try to keep it, you know, close to, in my opinion, is Tolkien, right? Like, if you're gonna respect someone's work fully, respect Tolkien's. It doesn't need to have the same feel of the movies, in my opinion. Because something that more, I guess, casual people, and I would say I'm, compared to some people out there, I'm definitely casual when it comes to Lord of the Rings, but the canon in Lord of the Rings, it's constantly like either shifted or just there's inconsistencies. Like, even in the books and Peter Jackson films, like in episode 1, that Lurtz, that Uruk-hai in the Fellowship of the Ring, that kills Boromir, like, he's not even in the books. That's not even a character in the books. I bet you wouldn't know that. He's a combination of characters we do see later on in the film. But that's a minor aspect. I actually want to pull something up that people don't get. Like, in the games, even, there's discrepancies. So, like, let's look at okay, Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring video game. It was a cluster. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, how can I pull this on here? Got so much crap on here. Now, hold up. No, I don't want to do that. No, not Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power. Sorry about this. I'm struggling here to pull up what I want to pull up. Okay. Yeah, so this oh crap. So this here, right? Like, this is Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, right? This is what the first game looks like. Does this look like what we are used to seeing with the movies, right? Does this look anything like this? No. And then we look at Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. So then so there isn't even a version like this of the Fellowship of the Ring, due to licensing issues and just disputes. So the ones that I think you're probably, I mean, this one's more popular, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and then they also make the Return of the King into the games. At least, I mean, I played them, but they're more based off the movies, and they look a bit familiar, right? well, there isn't one for the Fellowship of the Ring, simply because a different studio got to it first. So what I'm getting at, though, is like Lord of the Rings canon. In my opinion, like Lord of the Rings canon, nothing is exactly canon except for Tolkien's actual work. And it's kind of one of those things that, like, just choose your own canon, and you don't, and screw canon. Lord of the Rings is definitely one of those things where it's also just screw canon in itself. If you like something, you know, watch it, enjoy it, you know. It's just one of those things that it's not exactly clear unless you go off the books, and I think it's just like a piece of content that you just got to decide to enjoy if you want to enjoy it. And if you don't like it, you know, you don't have to like it. Like, I'm sure as heck not playing that one video game, that Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, what is that? That doesn't look like, that doesn't look right. So I think what we need to take away from this is that, you know, Amazon, they're doing their take of the Second Age. It looks visually stunning. We gotta go into it with open minds and be less judgmental on, does this feel like familiar film, and more so like, is this good television? Does it feel like Middle Earth? I think that's the more important thing. Does this feel like Lord of the Rings? And when I say that, that's the same thing as saying, you know, does it feel like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, right? It doesn't need to adhere to all the rules, but does it have that mythical feelings of Lord of the Rings versus feeling like a show like Game of Thrones, which, you know, I just don't, you know, I don't think we want that, right? I don't, or at least most people don't. You know, I'm fine with the action and some drama in there, but can we keep it somewhat consistent to just to be a film, or not to be a film, but just the mythical vibes. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so it takes place in the Second Age, thousands of years before what happens to Lord of the Rings. We're going to see the Númenóreans, right? I think the main plot points are obviously going to be in the title, the Rings of Power. So we're going to see those rings for the dwarves, men, and elves. It'd be cool to see different powers people can possess. Like with a dwarf, if they put on a ring of power, what is that going to do? Like we see it in The Hobbit when Galadriel is pretty powerful with one of her rings, right? She's able to actually throw Sauron's spirit and cast him out, or I guess the necromancer in any case. But like for the dwarves or men when they're not Nazgul, like we're gonna see the men as Nazgul, and I guess also see how they turn. But before that, like what benefit do these rings give them, and how does Sauron convince all these people to take it? And I think that's like the main premise of some of these earlier seasons. And then in the meantime, we'll see Sauron, you know, building up his forces in the background, because the orcs and the evil people are all at disarray at this point. At least that's what the vibe's going to be, right? Like they're going to be in the shadows, like, and that's just Lord of the Rings in general. You know, we've got this evil in the shadows, building up its strength, lurking until it's ready to show itself and try to take over, right? I feel like that's the most common idea we see in The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and whatnot. But I'm most excited to see, like, whether it's evil or the dwarves or the Númenóreans, you know, the great race of men, or the elves, just them built at this, you know, kind of prime age of like the best kind of craftsmanship. I mean, when they're all in like The Hobbit, they refer to these swords that you know, were crafted. And that brings me to the point too of, in Lord of the Rings, this is a little bit more lore-y, but in Lord of the Rings, the further you go back in time, like the closer you are to the First Age and like the start of time in Lord of the Rings, the more this feels more mythic, and that's because it actually is more mythic. Like it is more it's more magical. Like in Lord of the Rings, the closer you are to the start of time, the more like the trees, the earth, everything is more magical. And the farther we go out, the more human, the more mortal it feels like. So this will be a bit more of a magical time within the time period. And I think that's a really exciting idea to explore. But that's pretty much it for my thoughts, my reaction on this trailer. I hope to do some more podcasts in the future to discuss Ring of Powers as we get closer. But I just want to do a brief reaction and podcast, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. If you could drop a like, it would be huge to help out the channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.